If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you the flexible platform built to grow with you. Try it today for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
If your fashion wish list lives rent-free in your brain, you need to be on Poshmark. With Poshmark, you're shopping millions of listings from thousands of closets, each curated by someone with their own style. Vintage finds, designer pieces, and everyday staples all in one place. Search for your favorites or let the discovery come to you. Poshmark makes it easy to find what you actually want to wear at prices that feel like a quiet win. Download the Poshmark app today and use code PODCAST10 when you sign up to get $10 off your first purchase.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and it's so sunny in London. It's been absolutely beautiful. One could say it's been a little bit too warm on certain days, but that's fine. We're not going to moan about that because it's a real summer. But when I say it's a real summer, what I have certainly noticed is that the local green areas are actually looking straw-like. So they are under stress. And when one hears about the unusual sort of weather patterns, and certainly in the UK, the summers are now getting hotter and hotter, I think the thing is that we can all probably agree on, and certainly one thing that I'm feeling just from everything that I'm seeing is that the whole of the natural world is under stress. Certainly in the UK, we hear about lots of birds that are either sort of becoming extinct or, so many species that have become extinct. And then hedgehogs, for example, that are suffering. I don't know if they have hedgehogs in different countries. I'm not sure. But the thing is, it's like we're losing kind of various species at a rate that I think, scientists have now called this the 6th extinction or something, I could be wrong on that, but, it's just that, it's like, I don't know, we've been hearing for a while about the coral reefs and, insect populations collapsing and things, but it's just, I think the thing that's really concerning is that it's like entire ecosystems are just falling apart and we're just scrolling on our phone. And so how I feel is that it's just like, I saw an article, and the reason I'm reminded of this is, so I looked at sort of the common, which is all straw-like. I looked at an article where it was speaking about sharks and how with the warmer waters, sharks are being drawn to places where they wouldn't normally be seen, and they're having encounters with swimmers. And then, of course, you've got the orcas that are just striking boats, right? In places like, I don't know, just Spain and Portugal. And it's weird, right? And I think the marine biologists aren't sure why. But I feel that the balance has shifted, right? Everything is agitated. The earth is agitated, the sea is agitated, and I think that there's a lesson in that. And certainly Islamically, when there is corruption, that corruption will essentially mirror back at you through the land and the sea. And I think the thing is, I was thinking about this because when I just look at sort of, the natural greenery around me in London. It's just that it's not as lush, and I know I've mentioned this previously, but it's not as lush as it used to be when I was younger. And then that made me think that, oh my gosh, so things were more lush when I was younger. And I was saying this to my sister, that can you imagine, because when you watch all those movies or those simulations about the dinosaur era, and I know I'm literally going from my childhood to the dinosaur era, and I'm not that old, but the point is that I said to my sister, oh my gosh, can you imagine what Earth was like when Prophet Adam, peace be upon him, was on the earth, right? Because that was like, I don't want to say the beginning of Earth, because anyway, let's not get into that. But the point is, can you imagine how beautiful Earth was then? Because I'm thinking about how things were much more nutritious when I was younger, when tomatoes tasted different, and when my parents were younger. And then if you go back prior to that, obviously all those eras where food was just more nutritious, right? And then obviously I'm reflecting back on the dinosaur era, etc., and earlier, where, so I just feel that, my gosh, things are just so much more barren, right? So it's like the earth is corrupted, the sea is corrupted and agitated. And then I look at sort of that, the natural world, and then I think about humans and how we're agitated, right? Loneliness, stress, low mood, the breakdown of the family. And so, and I think that people, I mentioned last week about the fact that I feel that people are just depleted, right? And that's because they're exhausted, they're isolated, quietly struggling, and simultaneously we're kind of chasing more, right? Because we're fed about materialism and kind of, having more followers and more, influence, etc. Meanwhile, those in power are, are greedy, and it's just like they want to steal our attention. And people are just struggling. And so I don't know, I just feel that, as I said the other week, that people are just depleted, zoned out, and they're not even happy, right? So scrolling, people are not even happy. That's what I feel. And just to give you an example, and I know I've spoken about this before, but I just really get annoyed about it. And I was on the tube the other day. I'd actually come back from seeing the Marilyn Monroe exhibition, and it was so good. It was so good. It was very poignant. And on the way back, I was on the tube, and we have these seats, right, that are termed priority seats. There's actually something printed on the seat, and there's a sign above it normally that says you can have the seat, but if somebody comes in that's older, pregnant, etc., please give them the seat. Anyway, so there were two young guys sitting on these seats, and then this older lady came onto the carriage of the tube, and I wasn't sitting, so I couldn't give her a seat. But neither of the young guys in the priority seats moved, and nobody said anything. Everyone was just looking, most people, I can't remember if they were both on their phones. I think one wasn't. But I was just looking at them, looking at the carriage, and nobody offered a seat. And honestly, I thought to myself, this wouldn't have happened in Japan or Singapore, because I feel that in those cultures, something still says, let's notice each other. And so people are courteous. And I think that that's just, Western civilization, or just people are becoming more me, because they're just in a fog, people just, they're not doing it deliberately. I think they're just not looking up. They're just scrolling at their phones. And I feel that, I don't know. So isn't that worrying? Because you look at the whales, you look at the sharks, you look at nature, you look at people on the tube. And I think that, although we have that on the one hand, I think there's some really, really lovely people that are really going above and beyond. And I know this because I bump into those people, and they're doing lovely things. It's unglamorous. They're just doing it because of their own compassion for humanity, for their personal stance. They're doing it for humans, for their fellow human beings, for animals, for the coastline, for the neighbor, So I think that, those people are particularly aware. And I think it's not that kindness has disappeared. It's just less visible, right? Because basically, kind people don't speak about it all the time. And so I don't know. I just feel that I think, it's not about those big sweeping kind of save the world gestures. I think it's those small real ones, right? So someone just clearing something from the road or checking on an elderly neighbour, I don't know, or a conservation volunteer giving up their Saturday for a species of animal that's obviously never going to thank them. And I think that's so lovely. And the reason I was speaking about all of the stuff, that everything feels broken, the reason I was speaking about that is because, I don't know, you can't just feel bad about it, I think. And this is more for myself as well, is that I see all this stuff. And so to kind of, I don't know, to try and redress the balance, I think, I can do that by doing one small thing each day. And I think that is actually quite contagious, right? Because the way that everyone is scrolling and stuff, we know that there is kind of a backlash to that. So we have people that are scrolling and are apathetic, but equally we have people that, and I think, that Gen Z are kind of, they are kind of wanting to be more offline. And I just think that's lovely, right? So and I do think that kindness is contagious, being offline is contagious because it's so lovely. And so I think a note to myself is certainly to be more present, to notice, just to notice everything, because this the only moments we have are the moments that we're actually living right now. And it's just to notice, right? Notice what's happening with other people. And so I'm trying to make a conscious decision to actually notice people. I'm just always trying to be off my phone, to look at who's around me, think about maybe the neighbor that I've not seen again, about, things that have happened with my neighbor, the one that thankfully survived and is okay now. But, just things about kind of green space and trees. I'm always trying to hug a tree, and just, maybe things, I don't know, that I can do, right? Because I think it's, one can become overwhelmed by the enormous abstract. So when I read about the sharks and the orcas attacking boats, and about species loss and human loneliness, because when I think about all those things, I think, what is the root cause? And the root cause is, I feel, a failure of attention, right? We've stopped noticing each other. And so I think that it's really about standing up and doing what I can, right? Quite literally and figuratively, like when someone needs a seat on the tube. So I'm thinking about, what thing can I do? And for me, it's less about scrolling and more about looking around and paying attention. So I think that's what it is, paying attention to what is around me, so that, I feel that if I do my bit and if everyone does their bit, it makes the world a better place, right? So that's what I'm focusing on. I just thought I would mention that. I feel that if I'm a better person, at home, to my loved ones, to my neighbours, to my local community, then of course that's going to impact the world in a more positive way. And as one of the Islamic scholars that I love says, you can't save the entire world, but you can save one person. You can help one person. And Islamically, saving one life is like saving the entirety of mankind. And again, I'm not a scholar, but it's just, that's so powerful, I feel. So I'm just going to do what I can, right? And I think it all has a ripple effect. So if I can help one suffering human across the ocean, whatever, or help one animal, that's going to make the world a better place. Those are my thoughts for today. So until the next episode. And in fact, when is the next episode going to be? Because I'm thinking of having a summer break. And I'm thinking of doing that. So we're in August already. Can you believe it? So I was certainly thinking of having August off. And then, maybe kind of back mid to end September, I thought I would have a break, refresh, and then, get back to you guys. Until the next episode in the autumn, I guess, as I enjoy the late summer with my late summer break, let's all create connection and not just change lives, but save lives.
When you need to send the perfect rose bouquet, only one brand can say they've been the floral authority for 50 years. 1-800-Flowers. Why should you trust 1-800-Flowers? They hand-select every stem to ensure top quality. And with nationwide delivery, smiles and satisfaction are 100% guaranteed. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses, we'll double it at no extra cost. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Order today at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.